Taking her to the king is the highest honor to our culture. This will be the way to prove to Lisa I respect her a lot, and I am committed to her.
Oh my God, this is a king. He looks like a king. He's wearing lion head and this headdress, and I feel like I'm gonna myself.
Why are you laughing? Did you see me laugh?
No, my king.
She laughed. One sharp, nervous sound in a silent room where nobody else was smiling, and the king's face changed in a second, the air tightened, the attendants stiffened, and suddenly, what was supposed to be a proud cultural moment turned into something that looked dangerously close to humiliation. You could feel the shift through the screen. This was not playful laughter. This was a misstep in a space where hierarchy matters, where posture matters, where tone matters, and in that tiny flash, you could almost see the entire marriage plan wobble. Because when authority feels mocked, even by accident, the consequences are not small. I'm Olavia, and you're watching TLC Drama File Us, and before we go any further, I need you to tell me in the comments, was that laugh disrespect or pure nerves under pressure? And if you care about sharp, honest breakdowns of 90 Day Fiancé drama, hit subscribe, because what happened next changes how you see this relationship. Back to that moment. Lisa insists she was nervous. The king hears laughter while he is speaking. In his position, laughter reads as ridicule. In her position, laughter is a stress response. Two interpretations, one collision. And Daniel is standing right there, caught between loyalty to his culture and loyalty to the woman he wants to marry. If this blessing disappears, what does he lose? Pride, status, leverage, or something else entirely? And here is the uncomfortable question. If one laugh almost cost her everything, what does that say about the strength of what they are building? Because this meeting was sold as honor and love, but the way the room reacted makes one thing clear. This was never only about blessing. This was about obedience. Before she even stepped inside, Lisa had already built the scene in her head. Towers, marble floors, some grand entrance that felt like a movie set. Because when you hear the word king, your brain fills in images it learned from cartoons and theme parks, not from lived reality. And you could see it on her face when the car pulled up and the house in front of her did not match the fairy tales she had rehearsed. There was no castle gates swinging open, no sweeping staircase, no glittering throne room designed for applause, just a real home, grounded, ordinary in structure, but heavy with meaning. And that gap between what she imagined and what she saw hit her harder than she expected. This is not about mocking culture. African royalty has its own structure, its own legitimacy, its own history, and the show made that clear through the rituals and the reverence in the room. The real tension sits somewhere else. It sits inside the expectation gap. When someone builds a fantasy high enough, anything less feels like a fall. And when you are already insecure, already worried about your place, already trying to prove you are worthy, that fall does not feel neutral. It feels personal. Ask yourself why she needed the palace fantasy in the first place. Because status feels safer than vulnerability. If she is walking into a castle, she is special. If she is stepping into a modest home where rules are strict and respect is demanded, she is exposed. That difference matters. The fairy tale protects ego. Reality tests it. And while she adjusts to the setting, something else is building quietly in the background. The attendants are composed. The tone is formal. The king has not even fully entered the emotional picture yet, but his presence already shapes the air. You feel the weight before you see the authority. You sense that this is not a tourist visit. This is structured, measured, serious. The fantasy dissolves fast, and what replaces it is pressure. Because she did not walk into a Disney storyline. She walked into a room where every movement would be read, judged, and interpreted through tradition. She thought she was meeting royalty. She was walking into a hierarchy test. While everyone is focused on crowns and culture, there is another presence in the room that nobody can see, but Lisa absolutely feels. The woman Daniel messaged on social media, the one she tried to contact, the one who blocked her, and according to Lisa's own on-screen words, she convinced herself. The block happened out of jealousy because Daniel chose her. That explanation sounds neat. It sounds comforting. It gives her control. But comfort and truth are not always the same thing. And when trust is already cracked, even a small online interaction grows teeth. Listen closely to how Lisa talks about it on camera. She circles back to the block. She repeats the idea that the other woman must be mad, that she must feel threatened, that she must be bitter. Those are not random thoughts. Those are protective thoughts. When someone feels secure, a block is annoying. When someone feels insecure, a block is proof. Proof of secret. Proof of hidden conversations. evidence, proof of something unresolved. And once that idea settles in your head, every ceremony, every smile, every respectful gesture starts to look staged. It is fair to ask whether the other woman simply did not want to be dragged into reality TV drama. That possibility exists. Not everyone wants their messages dissected on national television, but Lisa does not lean into that explanation. She leans into the jealousy narrative because jealousy makes her the prize, and being the prize feels safer than being the backup option. Here is the tension no one says out loud. If she already doubts him, why chase a royal blessing so badly? Why fight for ancestral approval if the foundation at home is already shaky? A blessing does not erase suspicion. It does not close direct messages. It does not fix trust. So when she walks into that meeting with the king, she is not walking in empty. She is carrying that blocked account in her pocket like evidence. And that changes the energy, because this ceremony is not happening in a vacuum. This meeting was not happening in isolation. Suspicion walked in with them. The mood shifts the moment the king is fully introduced on screen. The camera slows down. The room feels smaller. Voices lower. Even the way people sit changes. There is a deliberate formality to the process. The consultation with the ancestors is not treated like a casual gesture. It is presented as serious, structured, intentional. This is not a friendly meet and greet. It is a ritual. No jokes here. No fairy tale filters. This is cultural hierarchy in motion. You see the attendants standing with composure. You see Daniel's posture tighten. You see Lisa kneel when required, careful, alert, aware that every movement matters. That is what authority does. It does not need to shout. It shifts the atmosphere without raising its voice. And here is the part people miss. Authority works through performance. Everyone in that room is performing their role. The king performs certainty. The uncle performs mediation. Daniel performs respect. Lisa performs humility. Even silence becomes part of the script. You can almost see them regulating their breathing, measuring their expressions, choosing words with caution. When rules are not written down but enforced through tradition, the stakes rise, because you cannot negotiate what you do not control. You cannot rewrite a system in the moment. The king sets the frame. He decides when to speak. He decides when someone else may speak. That structure alone tells you who holds power. And this is where the deeper tension sits. The meeting is presented as an honor, and it is, within that cultural framework. But honor and authority are not the same thing. Honor invites, authority tests. The difference matters, because who controls the rules controls the outcome. Everyone seems composed. The ritual flows. The ancestors are consulted. Blessings feel within reach. And then, calmly, without raising his voice, the king asks a question that changes the tone of the entire room. Then came the question that flipped the room. The king looks at Lisa and asks if she will take care of Daniel. The question lands heavier than it sounds. On the surface, it feels simple: care, commitment, responsibility. But pause for a second. Why is she being asked to prove her ability to care for him? Why is the spotlight not on Daniel promising to protect, provide, and support her? That imbalance is not accidental. It reflects the structure of the room. Now, before anyone rushes to judgment, traditions vary across cultures. Roles differ. Expectations shift depending on context. In some systems, the incoming partner, especially one from another country, faces deeper scrutiny. The outsider is examined more closely. That is not always cruelty. Sometimes it is caution. Sometimes it is protection of community values. But scrutiny still feels like pressure when you are the one under the microscope. And Lisa is under a microscope. She is not only an outsider culturally, she is older. She is American. She is stepping into a space where she does not control the rules. That combination amplifies the tension. When someone feels like the outsider in a tight hierarchy, the instinct is to overperform compliance. Sit straighter, speak softer, agree faster, smile wider. The body tries to compensate for insecurity, but the more you try to prove yourself, the more fragile you feel, because every answer must be perfect. Every reaction must be correct. There is no margin for error. The question about taking care of Daniel is not only about domestic roles. It is a signal. It establishes who must demonstrate worth and who is assumed to belong. Watch her face. Watch the way she responds. The weight of that question adds to the pressure already building from the social media doubts and the unfamiliar environment. And in that moment, something becomes clear. The test was not about marriage. It was about hierarchy. She says yes. She nods. She tries to meet the expectation. But Inside, the tension is rising. Her nerves are already cracking. And then it happens. The tension peaks, the room holds its breath, and out of Lisa comes that nervous giggle, quick, sharp, almost reflexive, the kind of sound your body makes when it does not know where to put the pressure. It is not loud. It is not mocking. It is not theatrical. It is fragile. But in a room where every movement carries meaning, fragile can still look like disrespect. The king's expression changes. The warmth drops. His posture tightens. He does not laugh with her. He does not mirror her energy. Instead, he challenges it. You see the offense register. In that space, laughter during a serious exchange reads as dismissal. And once authority feels dismissed, even unintentionally, the atmosphere shifts from ceremonial to confrontational in seconds. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Nervous laughter is common human behavior. People laugh at funerals. People laugh during job interviews. People laugh when they are overwhelmed. It is not always humor. Sometimes it is fear escaping the body. But power does not interpret behavior through psychology. Power interprets behavior through respect, through hierarchy, through protocol. What feels like anxiety to one person feels like insult to another. Daniel is now standing at a crossroads. He understands the rules of this room. He understands how laughter can be perceived. He also sees the panic in Lisa's face. If he stays silent, he protects his standing with the king. If he steps in too boldly, he risks appearing to challenge authority. The room is no longer calm. It is charged. One reaction. Two interpretations. Total chaos. And the real question is no longer about the blessing. It is about loyalty. In this split second, when tension spikes and respect is questioned, would Daniel defend her instinctively, or would he protect his position first? Daniel is not standing in that room as a neutral observer. He is balancing two futures at the same time. On one side is his respect for authority, his community, his tradition, the structure he grew up inside. On the other side is his relationship with Lisa and the possibility of a life in the United States, which, based on what has been shown on screen, represents opportunity, change, and upward mobility. Those two paths are not identical. They overlap, but they are not the same. The blessing matters to him. He says it matters. Even if marriage could move forward without it, socially the approval carries weight. In communities where hierarchy is visible and respected, going against a king's word is not a small social inconvenience. It can affect reputation, standing, family relationships. Approval signals alignment. Rejection signals tension. And Daniel knows that. At the same time, there is the reality of his future plans. Viewers have questioned whether a green card plays into his motivation. Allegedly, ambition for a different life can influence decisions. Ambition alone is not villainous. Wanting better circumstances is human. The conflict begins when loyalty and ambition collide in the same room. If the king withdraws support, Daniel faces a quiet but serious dilemma. Does he prioritize cultural alignment or romantic commitment? Does he slow everything down to repair social standing, or does he push forward despite disapproval? That is not a theoretical question. It is a practical one. So when Lisa laughs and the tension spikes, Daniel steps forward carefully. His tone softens, he explains her nerves, he tries to reframe her reaction without challenging the king directly. He is walking a tightrope. If the king said no, what would Daniel choose? The room waits as he speaks, respectful, measured, almost pleading without appearing desperate. And in that controlled voice, the real stakes of this moment begin to surface. The tension does not dissolve gently. It tightens first. The king calls her forward again. His tone is controlled, but firm. He explains that laughter in this space follows his lead. You laugh when he laughs. You respond when he permits it. The message is clear without being shouted. Timing belongs to him. And then comes the moment that makes viewers shift in their seats. He tells her to laugh, not because something is funny, not because the mood has changed organically, because he commands it. Lisa forces a smile. The sound that comes out of her is not natural ease. It is compliance wrapped in nervous energy. The room joins in. The tension cracks open into something that looks like celebration, but the release feels complicated. This is where psychology becomes uncomfortable. Submission often disguises itself as harmony. When authority restores order, people feel relief. The conflict appears resolved. The atmosphere softens. But relief does not always mean equality. Sometimes it means the hierarchy has been reestablished. Viewers feel it. There is cringe at the forced laughter. There is relief that the blessing is not immediately revoked. There is unease about what just happened. Was that a sweet cultural correction? Or a public reminder of who sets the rules? The answer depends on how you read power. The king smiles. The room follows. Daniel exhales. Lisa laughs again, this time on cue. And for a brief second, everything appears stable. When power tells you when to smile, that is not romance. Yet the ritual continues. The mood lifts. The dance begins. On the surface, the crisis seems over. The blessing intact. The future back on track. The room looks peaceful again. The king announces the ancestors accept her. The words land like relief after a storm. Faces soften. Shoulders drop. The tension that filled the room minutes earlier dissolves into celebration. Music rises. Movement replaces silence. The dance begins. And for a moment, it feels like the entire ordeal has led to this. Approval, acceptance, unity. Lisa smiles with visible relief. Daniel looks proud. The ritual appears complete. Public approval carries power. Once authorities speak, the room aligns. There is applause in the energy, even if it is not loud. Being declared accepted by ancestors is not a small gesture. In that cultural frame, it is validation. It is symbolic belonging, and belonging feels like victory. But here is the quiet truth that does not disappear just because people are dancing. A blessing does not equal compatibility. Approval from elders does not erase insecurity. Ritual does not rewrite personality. You can receive acceptance from a king and still struggle in private. Those two realities are not opposites. They coexist. Watch how quickly the celebration smooths over the earlier confrontation. It almost feels like a reset button has been pressed. Yet resets do not delete history. The nervous laughter happened. The hierarchy moment happened. The tension between ambition and loyalty happened. The doubts about social media happened. None of that vanishes because music starts playing. And beneath the surface of this celebration, there is something else. Something unresolved. Something not shared in this room. Something that could turn celebration into confrontation again. The dance continues. Smiles widen. The blessing stands. Everything appears secure. But there is still one secret waiting outside this ritual, and that secret changes everything. Just when the celebration settles and the blessing feels secure, the story pivots. On screen, Lisa admits she is still legally married. Not rumored, not implied, stated. The man standing in front of a king asking for ancestral approval does not know this yet. The timing of that revelation matters because everything we just watched, the kneeling, the apology, the forced laughter, the acceptance, happened while a legal truth sat unspoken. The tone shifts immediately. This is no longer about cultural misunderstanding or hierarchy etiquette. This is about disclosure. Marriage is not symbolic here. It is legal, concrete, binding. And if one partner enters a royal ceremony carrying an undisclosed marriage, the power dynamic flips. Suddenly, the outsider under scrutiny is also the one withholding information. Now the thesis sharpens. Both are bargaining, both are strategic in their own ways. Daniel seeks approval that strengthens his path forward. Lisa seeks validation that strengthens her emotional position. He navigates authority carefully. She navigates insecurity carefully. Each of them manages risk differently. Neither is passive. So the real question steps forward without drama music, without ceremony, without ancestors. Is this love, ambition, or survival? Is Daniel invested in partnership or in opportunity? Is Lisa invested in romance or in control and reassurance? Motives do not need to be evil to be layered. People can want affection and advancement at the same time. The tension lies in which one drives the decisions. And here's the line that lingers. If forgiveness comes too easily, follow the incentive. Because when the truth about her legal status reaches Daniel, his reaction will reveal more than any ritual ever could. The next chapter is not about the king. It is about what happens when truth enters the room.